What's up, everybody? It's Soul. This video is another in an interview series that I started about a year or two ago. I can't remember now, where I interviewed developers of some of the mods that you all enjoy here for CK3 and asked them about their mod. It's a little bit like a ModCon light, kind of, because it's mostly just me talking with developers. This video specifically will focus on upcoming CK3 mods at the time of recording this in January 2026. Those mods are the Winter King, New Era Old World, or N3OW, the Four Nations or the Avatar mod, and Radiation Kings or the Fallout mod. If you're not familiar with these kind of videos, it's mostly just a podcast style. I make them specifically so that you don't have to look at the video if you don't want to. They'll typically be like 15 to 30, 40 minutes per interview, and I'll just ask various questions. It's very off the cuff. I don't have a lot of questions prepared. I like it to be more organic, and that's really it. I sincerely hope you enjoy. As always, I'm Soul, and let's get to the interviews. What's up, everybody? It's Soul, and today I'm here with the Winter King lead developer, DC123456789, a mouthful of a username. How are you this morning?
I'm good.
All right. So the Winter King, this is actually one of the mods that I'm almost the most excited for, just because I love the books. And so I wanted to ask first, have you read the Warlord Chronicles? I would assume so.
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay. And is that what drew you? Like, so I don't know much about the history of this mod. I know it came from CK2. Were you involved with its initial creation? And for those, and I guess for people who don't know, tell us a little bit about what this mod is. What is the Winter King?
Sure. So it is kind of it's set in Dark Ages, focused on Britain, but eventually its scope did extend to at least it's intended to extend at least to all of Western Europe. At least it was intended to extend to all of Western Europe. And so I guess what sets it apart from like the other Dark Ages mods in CK3, you have Fallen Eagle, and you have When the World Stopped Making Sense. Is that it's much more. It's I guess you could say it's zoomed in.
Mhm.
So the map is much more expanded. It's much more granular. Just and so it's just a lot, and it's a lot more details. Um, yeah, and so to answer your other question, I wasn't involved, and so the mod started. I think the mod was first released, I think, in late 2012, which is the same year that CK2 came out.
Oh my God.
Um, hmm?
I said, oh my God, that's a long time ago.
Yes, it is a very long time ago. Wasn't I wasn't involved in the mod then. I just got interested as a fan. I think a year or two late, like about a few months to a year in,
Mhm.
and I also never heard of the books, but I really got drawn in by just the idea, the idea of well, first of all time period, also the idea of having such a zoomed in mod. There weren't really that many back then.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and I kind of got involved. I think in 2014 or so, when the original developer kind of left, and because of I guess real life obligations,
Mhm.
and I kind of was involved with a couple of other fans and other like like non lead one of the other some of the other developers trying to pick the mod back up because mod compatibility updates, and I've been involved ever since.
Wow. So you've been working on this mod for 12 years?
Well, not consecutively, but like
But
I guess
like,
that's when I started. Yes.
yeah, I guess cumulatively. So what is your origin, I guess, with modding? Is this the first mod that you ever worked on, or were you already like a modder before that, which is why you
Oh,
joined the team?
this is basically the only mod I've ever worked
Oh, you've
on.
only ever worked.
But
Oh,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, being so involved in the mod for so long, it doesn't really leave you a lot of time to get involved in other things, especially when you're yeah. Because we have like we've always had a fairly small team, and so if we want and basically if you want to do anything substantial, then
Mm.
you kind of have to do a lot of it yourself, right?
Yeah. And it does sound like the mod is more, like you said, it's granular and it's also a lot more, I guess, event or story focused. So you want to explain a little bit about that? How does that look in comparison to like your standard CK3 total conversion mod?
Sure. So I guess well, hmm, I guess compared to a standard CK2 conversion mod, I wouldn't actually say it's that much more, especially I guess story focused. For
Hmm.
example, I think I guess I haven't played them for a lot, but I think a lot of the other but a lot of other mods that are based on like narrative IPs. I think they do tend to have a fair few like narrative event chains based on particular characters, right?
Hmm.
So I wouldn't say that we have that more or even be focused on that very much. It's more that we kind of it's more that we kind of first of all like to guide the game as guide the mod gameplay as a whole, or not like the flow of the game as a whole. So it generally tends towards a historical, so that tends towards a historical or like plausible outcome,
Hmm.
at least more than CK3 vanilla. It's also that it's also that I guess we try to the sort of just the flow of the content, especially for the more content filled factions like the Britons or the Anglo-Saxons or the Romans.
Hmm.
They um they you kind of try to find try to provide like sort of maybe not narrative but like just sort of continual explain expanding content and goals in sort of that I honestly kind of kind of it's kind of almost kind of like the mission trees that you find in EU4, especially in the that yeah, so that, kind of like that.
Oh, I see. Okay. And so, what I guess for maybe for those who aren't familiar, what would that look like within the confines of like CK3? So, would it be like you have, I guess, like branching possibilities within a decision kind of sort of thing?
Oh, not so well. I mean, not so well. Let's for example, take example the Britons.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, at the beginning of gameplay, you're basically either you either you're trying to take over a single kingdom, or or you're starting as a king, and then the content is all basically based around trying to become high king at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and then while also of course fending off the invading Saxons, and then the content really and then after that you basically have like an it's pretty inspired by the EU4 HRE mechanics, where basically you have to try to keep control of the High Kingship. Try to keep control of the High Kingship. Pass a whole bunch of reforms, and pass a bunch of reforms. Slowly centralize the kingdom, while also taking over Britannia, like also reconquering the lost lands in the east, and then and then at the end of that you have a couple of branching options. One is you can decide to claim the title emperor, and then you now you're emperor. You claim the mantle of the Western Roman Empire. You can invade Gaul to basically
Hmm.
restore restore imperial rule, or you can decide to embrace Celtic heritage and then take over all of Britannia, take over the rest of the British Isles and America, and unite all the Celts in that way.
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
So stuff like that.
Interesting, interesting. And then is there going to be, or are there going to be, any sort of storylines, I guess, from the books? Because the books are pretty, I guess, interesting as far as they pertain to Arthur and like Lancelot and Guinevere and stuff. Like, is there anything like that going to be, or does that exist within the mod in the CK2 version? Because I have no idea. I've never played it.
In CK2, there was some content, especially around Arthur. So I mean, for example, he can come back. First of all, he's scripted to come back from I believe Benoit. After Uther dies, become regent. He can recruit Durfal and Sagramore,
Hmm.
and there's also a little event chain where he can decide between whether or not he wants to marry Guinevere or Steinwyn.
Oh yes, interesting.
Yes, yes. And then there's also some events which are kind of they don't really match exactly, but they're kind of definitely inspired by the books, where Anglia and Sussex or Aela and Curdic will invade,
Hmm.
and then once they die, and then especially once they die, their kingdoms will fall apart, and that gives you a little breather for the Britons, which
Hmm.
is quite a bit inspired by the books.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
interesting.
I think in CK3, um, we were at one point there was at one point a developer who was really wanted to add in more detail for these events, but he kind of had to leave for other obligations. So I think probably at least to start, we're probably not going to have much more than what we had in CK2.
I gotcha.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah, just
That makes sense.
just have an accurate setup.
So what you said the team is fairly small. How many people are on the team?
Um, so besides me, I would say we have around 4 active developers.
Oh, so it's 5 total. Wow, that is small.
Oh, sorry, like 4 including me.
Oh, 4 including. Oh my God, so tiny, less than a handful. That. So, are you actively looking for developers at the moment? Has the team like fluctuated a lot over the years?
Not well. We're certainly we're always looking. Um, the team has actually grown a bit. The team has grown a bit over the last couple years. I think when I started off, it was basically just I'd say it was basically just me and like one like maybe 2 other half active developers. So it actually is bigger than it was bigger than it was before already.
Interesting. Okay. And so, what would you be looking for specifically? Like, do you have something that you specialize in, or something that you find that you need in a developer that would be coming to the team?
Um, to be honest, I have thought about it, and I would say that there is definitely work to be done for basically any sort of developer,
Mm,
whether it's scripting or art or writing or research or mapping. I think you could definitely find a lot of stuff for you to do
okay.
for someone to do if they need those skills
Which is good because I mean,
or
there's.
interest.
It seems like most of the time these videos encourage people to want to like try out the mod. And what do you like? Do you recommend people like going to the co-op, or are you guys like able to teach people about modding? Like, how would that look for somebody who was interested?
Oh, I'm well, yeah, I'm more than happy to help people with whatever they want to mod. Normally it goes the way it would go is that like they're either gonna pitch an idea of what they want to do, or of course we can suggest something from our pretty long to do list,
Hmm.
and then kind of hmm, hmm, almost I guess we I kind of depending on their level of experience, either I just might just point them in the right direction, kind of the right give them the right give them the right the facts or trigger the pick facts or triggers or like whatever
Hmm.
component of the mod they want to look at. Yeah, but I think it's normally that I'll point in the right direction, tell them to look at the relevant vanilla code. Usually if you're a beginner, I'm not going to give you anything that's complicated. I'm not going to let you do anything complicated.
Mm.
And then just basically they can come back, try it out, and I'll just give them iteratively give them feedback on on like what makes sense, what worked, what isn't going to work, what works, and then what works but like it's not, but like it's not good form, for example, and
Hmm.
just kind of a review process, kind of is how I like to do it.
Mm. That makes sense. So, with at the time, of making this, like I have obviously made a video on the Winter King, and I've seen like its earliest iterations. It's still obviously very much in work. What would you say is like the general timeline before you see like either your beta or your first like actual release? And what
Yeah.
challenges have you seen, I guess, in trying to get that to come to fruition?
Yes. So our timeline is that we're hoping to release probably around April, and we kind of let like an internal deadline of around June.
Hmm.
Um, so leaving ourselves quite a bit of leeway. Um, I think the biggest challenge is trying to trying not to get bogged down in doing things that are nice to have but not actually essential for
Hmm.
having a release, I think. And that's
Such as.
partially part of why it's taking so long.
Hmm.
Kind of getting distracted by things that aren't that necessary.
Hmm.
But
Uh,
I think we kind of decided like, okay, this is going on too long. We should just release as soon as we think it's okay.
I gotcha. What sort of things would have you been getting distracted by, if you don't mind answering?
Um, so I guess for example, kind of like almost as I mean, okay, so I guess from my point of view, gameplay stuff is always going to terms aesthetics. I think you can definitely I think some other people disagree, and that's fine. But like for me, that's more important. So I think stuff like getting the flavor text, especially for me, it's like stuff like getting the flavor text down or getting like the exact detail of like, I don't know, should it cost 200 gold, should it cost 300 gold, what's the exact balance here, and
Mm.
like so like this stuff, like little details like that, which kind of aren't like you can't spend a lot of time thinking about it, or like especially if you open up to an alpha, then like you can see you can get other people's feedback on it. I
Hmm.
think it's just more. I think it's almost more of that, like how much, like how much, for example, my or other developers' time is best spent, as
Hmm.
opposed to if we can get like kind of get someone else to do it, even if it's not as efficiently, but because like our developer time is so valuable.
Hmm. Yeah, because you don't have very many. Yeah, you're pretty limited,
Yeah.
so you kind of got to be spending time doing things that are important. Is there anything that you're going to put in the mod that you're excited to, I guess, show off, or that you think you find maybe like different, or you're just like you're looking forward to?
I think probably, I guess in the CK2 mod, kind of one of the features that people and myself, of course, like the most is the high king system, kind of where you could kind of like where any king, if you any king, you without having to like conquer everyone else, you could get, if you just kind of could prove yourself, you get them all to like unite, even if temporarily under you, and and then slowly from there centralized. I think we definitely have a few ideas for how we could change that up for CK3,
Mm.
using tools that weren't available, and I think I think that's probably what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So it sounds like you're trying. If I remember right, and I think you said it already anyway, but it sounds like you're trying to release sometime in the summer, sometime around ModCon. I think, like before ModCon 2026, or like around then.
Yeah, so like our June deadline, basically, we don't think SmodCon gonna happen. Is basically we want to have it by next ModCon.
Yeah. Okay. 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 And what? So with the initial release, because I saw it was, I think it was just like all of England and Scotland. I don't think it had Ireland on there yet. Is that going to? Is that what the map is going to look like? Or are you going to try and also add like Ireland, and then usually like I guess Northern Gaul is also a big part of at least the story. So I don't know if that's also going to be on there.
Yeah, so the first release, I think the only thing we're guaranteed to add is what we call Britannia, which includes England and Southern Scotland. Um, Northern Scotland is a possibility. It all depends on on how fast that it all depends on how fast that moves.
Hmm.
Um, so I guess for our so were you asking about like what our eventual scope is going to be?
Well, the eventual scope I'm interested in. I also do want to stress I know Wales is already on there, so I did forget to mention that.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
our
Southern
Welsh
Scotland.
people.
Yes, I don't want to forget our Welsh homies. But yeah, what is the general scope? Because there seemed to be some confusion, at least in my video. Some people were like, "Is it just Britain?" Which I know it isn't. But what is the absolute radius of like the mod's ambition?
So basically, the way we kind of describe it is like kind of the combined Latin, Germanic, and Celtic worlds. So basically, in the CK2 mod, we had all of the British Isles, we had all of Gaul, we had like half of Germania, and like I guess you could say the core part of Scandinavia.
Hmm.
Um, and so the maximum possible scope where we would be basically the entire the whole Western Roman Empire, plus all of plus so somewhat vaguely defined all of Germania, including Scandinavia.
Okay, okay. So it is, but it is mostly just like a Europe focused mod with maybe
It is
some.
absolutely Western Europe. Well, Western Europe plus of course plus North Africa, which is practically Western Europe in this time
Mm,
period.
okay. Yeah, right, of course. Okay, interesting. And then what would you say? So this, I can't remember. The start date is what, 479?
Yes, 479.
And then what is there like a maximum? Oh, the end date is like what? It's like 970 something. So the
962.
962. So with that, I don't know. Somebody asked this question, so I was curious too. Cornwell also wrote a series of books, obviously about like Vikings, the Last
Hmm.
Kingdom books. Are those going to also be incorporated into the mod during like the Viking invasion, or how does that look? That might also be too far in the future, so if you don't have a solid answer, that's fine.
Yeah. So in CK2 mod, we had I think five separate bookmarks: 410, 479, 410 as of the very starting bookmark, and then one bookmark for each of the books. I think was 479, 486, in 496 is what we determined the timeline probably was. And then one in 532, which is kind of the the frame story when they're from the monastery. That's when 532 is supposed to represent. I don't currently we're focusing purely on the 479 start date. We don't have any immediate plans to have more start dates. That's in part because we are more focused on expanding the map, rather than expanding the map rather than expanding the bookmarks. Just because we feel like it gives us an opportunity to have more interesting stars, more interesting content than bookmarks would. Yeah. So, and 800 I think Saxon story is set during the Great Heathen Army, right? Something like that.
Something like
it'd
that.
be like 867, 870s. That would, I think, a bookmark there is pretty unlikely to happen, at least in the near future. Because this doesn't really give you much more time to play. But Viking invasions themselves, I don't know if they're ready for the first release, but that is definitely something we had in CK2 mod, and definitely something we want to have.
So it'll still happen. It just won't be like a bookmark. It'll be like if you play that long, then the Viking invasions will eventually happen. Okay, so that makes sense. Sort of like, I guess, like the Mongol invasion in the base game.
Yes, it
like
is.
It will happen.
Yes, kind of like that, shaking up the map.
Yeah. So with the invasion of the Saxons and the Angles and stuff, are they going to be sort of like this big threat? I mean, in the books, they are considered to be like a pretty existential threat. So are they going to be difficult for you to manage? Like, is it going to be challenging, I guess, to start off?
It depends who you are. If you're one of those small kingdoms in the Midlands, it will be Midlands are being directly threatened by Ayla, then you will have a very hard time. You will have quite a hard time, that's for sure. If you're sitting all the way comfy in Wales, you probably won't even have to touch them at all until late in the campaign. But yes, Anglo-Saxon will definitely be a threat if you're playing pretty much anywhere in England, not just if you're close to one of the existing Saxon kingdoms, because there will also be for sure events and mechanics to make sure all the other Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, in Mercia, Wessex, Northumbria, don't think you're safe just because you're in the north or something.
Right, which makes sense. And then, so I guess with the release only having the bulk of Britannia, without the north of Scotland and Ireland, how are you in the future? Are you going to? I would assume you're going to add those first, just because if they aren't added at release, just because the Irish raiders are a big part of the story, as are the northern raids that they could talk about a lot. And I feel I don't know how do you plan on articulating those in the initial release, or are they just something that you're going to do later and just focus on the Anglo-Saxons first?
The raiders?
Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, those aren't gonna be a big focus, since the kind of the heyday of the Irish and Pictish raiders seems to have been a bit before the start date. So and I think and as I mentioned in the video, they didn't really. I mean, all the kingdoms that they historically established have already come into existence. So basically, our thinking right now is probably we're going to represent them with some adventure spawns in the areas, and then probably a little bit nudge for them to occasionally try to declare war for individual counties or whatever. But
okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah. That's interesting. Okay. Are there any, besides the High King mechanic, are there any other unique things that will be specific to the mod that people could look forward to?
Yeah, well, besides the Bride King mechanic, there is an analog, though of course, still a little quite different in the form for Anglo-Saxon communication in the title of Britwalda. This one is kind of definitely, instead of this one's different in that instead of trying to get yourself almost elected by all the other Britain kings, instead you're basically trying to establish your hegemony over the other Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, and then slowly increase your authority and annex them until you're the only king left. That's kind of behind that mechanic. And
Mm.
the other mechanic that I guess other that I guess is also just cool is kind of the jure shift mechanic where basically you can see the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms slowly appearing and expanding over the map, or over the map, or the Britain kingdoms pushing them back, restoring the old kingdoms in the east, or if you decide to go Roman path, seeing the Roman province in Dallas, either appearing again.
Yeah, that
But
is something that I'm interested in. Yeah, I think that having like a natural de jure drift and then like renaming with your culture is something that a lot of people like to see. So it is a cool mechanic.
mhm,
And then I was
yeah,
curious before I let you go, because I don't have too many more questions, but I do have one. So this was something I was just curious about the mod in general. So I noticed, well, I mean, I obviously it's in the video that I made, but there's
mhm,
no supernatural or magical elements to the mod, and they're not really in the book. They kind of are. It's more like ambiguous most of the time, except for like I think
yes.
one instance where it's not ambiguous at all. But what was why were those removed from the mod? Is it just to keep it more historical?
The answer is they were never there,
Mm.
but people. I added a disclaimer because it was a very common misconception on the CK2 mod.
Mm-mm.
Despite it, I think it probably just because people associate Arthurian legend with magic.
Yeah, and then
Um,
the books have a heavy prominence of druids, at least in the beginning, or actually, I would say throughout most of it. There's a lot of
yes,
like
yes, and then
druidic.
they cast all sorts of magic, or at least they cast things they say are magic.
Yeah, yeah,
That makes sense. The
air
results
quotes
are
magic. Yes.
yes. I mean, like, because I think our take on because like at least our take on the book is always that it's been a historical it's basically a historical grounding of the Arthurian legends, right? And
Yeah.
so we've kind of just taken that, and so it's just kind of we just kind of taking that into which that's kind of what we're doing, right? You're taking the book and putting it into its full historical context in dark, well, quote unquote dark ages, Western Europe,
Mhm.
and so that naturally lends itself to a very historical interpretation of what's happening.
Well, I mean, that makes sense to me. And I'm excited for the mod. And I think that might be all the questions I have. So I want to thank you for your time, DC. And I hope that everybody, I guess, looks forward to the summer when the mod comes out. And again, if you want to participate, you can reach out to the team on their Discord, which I'll be sure to link in the description of this video, as well as the Discords for everybody else. But thank you. Do you have anything else that you wanted to share that you had maybe prepared or wanted to talk about before we let you go?
Nope. Thank you for talking. Thank you for talking to me.
What's up, everybody? It's Soul, and today I am here with New Era Old Worlds, one of their lead developers, Murloc867. How are you today?
I am good.
But as far as this mod goes, it's a setting that a lot of people know. This mod has a lot of history, but it's not one that I knew. Can you briefly, or I mean, it's however long you want, explain what this mod is? Because there's also been some confusion, I think, about the mod. So maybe you could like clarify the specifics. I know that it used to be a part of some of the After the End mods, but it isn't. So, like, what is New Era Old World?
Well, basically, originally, yes, it was a spin-off it was supposed to be like a spin-off to After the End. But we had some creative issues with the original CK2 um team, and that caused us to decide at that time to become our own separate universe to it. Still very similar, mind you, but uh, we decided to become separate, just so we have more creative control. There's still a lot of nowadays, because obviously their team is totally different and our team is very different as well. I'm probably one of the few people that's consistent between those two time periods. Um, so yeah, um,
Oh wait, so
it's
you've been working on it since CK2?
Yeah. I was for quite a while actually during the CK2 period. I was one of the only active devs on Yao.
Oh wow.
Uh, yeah. Like for I'd say a year and a half, maybe two. I was pretty much the only person making commits
Dang.
to the yeah, to the dev version. And what is it? We only just there recently finally finished up. Like we said, the CK2 version is actually like done.
Oh, you've just finished it. Oh, well, I mean, that's good. And congratulations on that.
Yeah, we're still putting some work into the spin-off
Mhm.
version that we were doing for CK2, which is New Era, New World,
Okay.
which was yeah, but in the Americas. We're still putting some work into that, but we've shifted most of our focus over to the CK3 mod now, and getting ready to making an EU5 version when EU5 becomes a bit more stable.
Right. Right. Because I remember you saying you were working on the EU5 version as well, which is a lot. Are you going to do a Victoria 3 one as well or no?
Not really. Victoria 3 doesn't really interest me as much.
Which is
I
fair.
if I were to do it, I'd probably just if I were to explore that time period, I'd probably just take EU5 and like push its time, like how long it runs for a bit further, if that makes sense. So it just it add more text to it. Since I mean there's no limit on how long it can run for, so might as well just add on to it rather than have it in an entirely different system.
So how is the development going for that? Because I mean, obviously, you guys are. It seems like you're getting pretty close to like release.
Yeah,
Release. Yeah.
the first version, which is just Western Europe, I'd say we're actually pretty close to having that done. Well, like quite surprising to me. Once, we were making good progress through the year, and then, towards the end of the year, we started to get a few more developers, and we've been making a lot of progress the past few weeks, past month. I mean, it kind once you have see because a lot of the work was just getting it working on like all under heaven, for instance. Like there was a good period there where we were just trying to figure out all the crashes that all under heaven was causing. But once we figured that out, and what was it, got everyone swapped over to working on it instead of working on the CK2 version.
Right.
Yeah, it went a lot faster, and yeah, uh, it just we'll probably have 0.1, which will just be Western Europe, out
Hmm.
sometime in the next like 6 months max,
Yeah.
probably less, I want to say. Um, but yeah, after that, we're hoping to probably do as 0.2 the Balkans, or uh, maybe like, uh, what would be the word for that? Actually, I don't think there is a word for that. Either like the Balkans, or for 0.2, we might do like Poland, Bohemia, Hungary sort of area. That might be
I
0.2,
gotcha.
depending on which way we want to go. What is it? Nistrenia will probably be its own uh update all to itself, just because
Gotcha.
it's so big.
Right.
So
That makes sense. Okay, that's cool. How many team members do you guys have?
uh probably like what nowadays, like 15 or 20
That's pretty
now.
good. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it got a lot bigger there recently because we went and tried to recruit more people before. But I mean up from when it was just me, that's massive. So yeah.
And I've played the mod a little bit, obviously, just like as a show of its existence here on the channel. It's pretty early on, but do you guys have any like big overarching plans for it? Like, is there any are there going to be like any big storylines, like events that happen that are going to like happen for everybody that you'll have to sort of contend with? Do you have any plans for stuff like that?
We were well, what is this? The mod does have like a lore that is supposed to happen to it. For instance, you know, Nistrenia is supposed to recover a bit. But then there's supposed to be a Turkish horde that goes through into Hungary. Um, for instance, yeah, and there's the migration into Iran and stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so there's like canon invasions and things that are going to happen.
Yeah, as for like proper stories, we might. I don't know about that. I think there was something about. There was some talk of something about the Doggerlanders
Hmm.
invading like Britannia
Hmm.
at one point. Not sure about that though.
Yeah,
So
and I was confused. So maybe you can clarify this for me because I don't. What the hell is Duggerland? Because people they dogged on me for not.
they dogged on you.
They
You
dogged on
got
me literally.
dogged
Yeah, I got
on.
Doggerlanded for not mentioning it in my This Is video, and then I was going to convert it. And apparently, there's even going to be a holy site for the novelist there. Potentially, it might get moved there. But what is that? I feel like I'm out of the loop.
Okay, so basically, like 70 years after the apocalypse, there was like tectonic activity in the North Sea, due to the what is it, the isostatic shift.
Hmm.
The isostatic rebound causes the North Sea to slowly rise up. This occasionally causes minor earthquakes and very rarely causes major earthquakes.
I
Now,
gotcha.
the reason why it's rebounding is because it was all pressed down during the last ice age when it was all above water by a massive glacier. So basically, it has one of these major earthquakes due to the isostatic rebound, shifting a small amount of Doggerland, just like the shallowest parts of Doggerland, just above the water by like
Hmm.
a little bit. Like it's still very swampy, very salt marshy, but it's land. So
Is this a real thing? Like, well, I mean, obviously this isn't there right now, but is this a thing that exists like just under the surface?
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
You can dive down to it. It's very shallow right there. It's the
interesting.
shallowest part of the North Sea. It's like what 8 meters down, less.
Wow.
So
Okay. Well, today I learned.
yeah,
I mean, and this is why I like mods like this because it does feel like certain aspects of like not only just like popular culture, but like I guess Europeanism or like with after the end, it's like Americanism. I'm not gonna keep comparing them, but like there's like aspects of those realities in like the modern sense that just get they influence the mod in a unique way. Like I really like the novelist fates. Obviously, I mean I have a character who got added into the mod, which is really exciting. But I just think that it's not only is it cool, but it's like a very plausible. It seems like there's a lot of effort to make things like as plausible as possible. Like, yes, people probably would just assume that every book was a religious text, or at least somebody would, because they're like, well, why would they write it if it's not true? I mean, that I could totally see somebody saying that.
yeah. They're very much so like pan universalists, if that makes sense. Like
Mm.
it's not just that, oh, every literature book is correct to them. No, basically every book is correct to them. So like just as much, just like that has some amount of value. So like a physics textbook is just as important to them as, say, Lord of the Rings or the Quran
Hmm.
or the Bible, because they're all because to them, or as someone pointed out, technically speaking, fan fiction,
Hmm.
because they're all saying something about, because to them they're all saying something about the universe and the creatures that were put in it, whether that be someone specific, like the specific way that someone's mind worked, which is still part of God's creation in their eyes. So you
Interesting.
know,
I mean, that
you
makes a
know,
lot of sense. That kind of reminds me of, which I know that this is a big influence on probably everything, but A Canticle for Leibowitz, like the beginning of that book, there's a big part of that where they're like trying to preserve a lot of knowledge in like a monastery, basically. So it's like a similar idea. There's like an ecclesiastic society that just preserves like ancient tech, which is what the Brotherhood of Steel is inspired by, which I'm sure
yeah.
maybe this is inspired by that. Who knows? I'm not going to go into Fallout. I just talked to the Fallout team like right before this interview. It's not going to be in the order of this, but it was, I got to nerd out a little bit. But what is something about the mod that you find really exciting that you're like excited for people to try out?
Well, compared to After the End, we definitely which I bring up because they're our parent mod. Basically, they're like our parent setting, as it were, the same way that you know, Canticle is for After the End. Uh, but compared to it, we definitely lean more into like the post apocalypse, like the post apocalypse than they do. They're more of a like medieval world too, whereas we're like, okay, so the world is back to being mostly medieval, but like what sort of stuff would be different this time around, so like there's stuff that are really obvious to us nowadays as modern people and are really disseminated across the population, which just didn't exist in the medieval period. A really obvious one that you don't think about, for instance, is the wheelbarrow,
Right.
which people don't realize is actually something that even at the start of like EU5, basically not a thing in Europe.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
that would suck. It's a
Yeah,
pretty.
they actually had this thing called a hand barrow where two people had to carry it.
So it's just like
Um
a. It's like a palanquin where you're just like carrying crap, or
yes, yes, that's literally it. That's
like a
literally it.
stretcher. Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah. But there's also things like, oh, why is everyone still using like mostly like early Renaissance medieval sort of warfare? Oh, it's because there's so much high grade steel around that even like the regular ass peasants can afford plate armor, like
Oh.
limited plate armor, you know? There's just so much of it lying around from all the cars and stuff and all
Mhm.
the buildings that had it in it, they can just afford it. It's not expensive. So guns, while being useful, are sort of like boxed in because what is it? The tech necessary to get the gun to the point that it can penetrate this high grade steel armor is like so it's like high enough that it's sort of containing uh, people innovating on it, because if you innovate on it, it doesn't make a difference.
Mm.
It's still not any better at penetrating. So you have to. It sort of has to build up for a long while before eventually it'll spill over,
Right.
and you start getting it. You start getting it rendering armor kind of obsolete.
Yeah. You're
And
kind
that's
of.
where, yeah,
I was gonna say it's almost like a like an early modern period like rehash. It almost sounds like, or like like the early modern period come back to life, like where there are guns, there and cannons and things, but they're not necessarily widespread because they're either really inaccurate or they're cumbersome or they're difficult to acquire materials for, things like that.
yeah. And what is this? There's also stuff like, oh, in the medieval period, they didn't know that like hot air and certain gases could carry things.
Right.
So in setting, there are lighter than air vehicles,
It's
like
like a
airships.
like an airship or a zeppelin, which is sick to think about.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, because that's just not a thing that they knew about. But if they did know about it, you bet they would have been using it in the medieval period.
Yeah, they could have absolutely figured it out, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, like they had all
Interesting.
they had all of the material to make it. They just didn't have a one key piece of information. So
Interesting. Well, that is cool for the setting. So with the mod itself, obviously we have like a timetable. Like maybe 4 to 6 months, we'll see the point one. Are you looking for developers right now for the mod? Like, are you guys putting out an active call for anything, like writers, coders, anything?
yeah, basically anyone who has writing or coding, writing, coding, artistic ability will really take anyone who has any ability to help.
Mhm.
The more the merrier. It'll help get it out faster. So
Yeah, and that makes sense. Do you so so obviously we have like the timetable of how things are going, but have you run into any challenges with getting things like together? I don't know. Besides All Under Heaven, has there been any other roadblocks that you've come across?
No, I mean, not really. Probably, like one of the harder things is keeping. Now that we have a bigger team, keeping everyone like on vision and like making it so that we don't hyper focus on an area was something that we were having issues with because we couldn't stop ourselves for a bit there making more religions for France.
Oh yeah.
We just kept making more for France and um yeah, we really needed to be doing that elsewhere like Italy and Spain and such. So
Right. Would you say there's any area of the mod, like as of right now, that's less developed than others? Would it be like France is more, or like Britannia, and then the other ones are like less so at the moment?
Yeah, at the moment, I'd say the least developed area is probably Scandinavia,
Mm.
with Britain and France being the most developed. Britain and France are basically in their final playable state,
Mhm.
except for Ireland is still a little up in the air with what we're doing with it. Um, I mean, you'd think being Irish, I would have settled on that a bit earlier, but
Right.
uh, it's just that we've been going back and forth on like how we want it because we don't want it to be so disunited that the British just overrun it every single game, but we also don't want it to be so united that it's boring.
Right. Yeah, because you want to like create a challenge. I mean, you could just. I mean, this is me just spitballing, but you could try to like make it a confederation that has like I don't know. I don't know how confederations work like code wise, but it could be like tentative. It's like two siblings, and if they die, or one of them dies, it like collapses or something. I have no idea. But it could be a cool idea, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea. This is merely an idea. But in any case, I'm really excited for this mod. I'm a big fan of After the End, and I'm a big fan of seeing a setting that is similar and unique in its own respects in Europe, because I think that there's a lot of people who enjoy like the other mod, and they're like, well, I want to see what like the future would look like, where I'm from, and this kind of gives that with like the same level of attentiveness and care because the team is pretty big. I mean, 15 to 20 people, believe it or not. I don't know if you've heard of the under interviews. Some of those teams are only like 5 or 10 people, so it's pretty impressive you guys have so many. And hopefully this video gives you a few more. But is there anything else that you would like to share, or that you would just like to let people know about before we let you go here?
Well, for anyone who wants to get a general idea of what the rest of the world looks like, what is it? The CK2 version does actually cover the entire span of the CK3 map, and actually a little more because it even includes a bit of Alaska. So if anyone wants to get a bit of an idea of what the rest of the world looks like, you can always go and check there because we will kind of be sticking roughly to that. Korea will be interesting when we eventually get there, given that the south of it is mostly what is it, corporate republics. Sorry, no, not corporate republics. I have to correct myself there. Corporate principalities.
Oh my god,
So
that's really funny. That'll be
uh
interesting for sure.
yeah. Uh Japan also has a few of those. I'll let you guess who they are.
Right.
Um but yeah. And what was it? The other big the other big things in our setting, like the other big states, are like that will probably be hegemonies at start are Bhutan. But Bhutan isn't big. Bhutan is very small.
Mhm.
It's just, Bhutan. It's supposed to be like a Stellaris fallen empire. Uh but in CK2, CK3. And then what is it? Nigeria, which
Mhm.
is big African empire.
Right. Yeah,
So
I've heard both of those. Are like Bhutan specifically is kind of like a in fandom favorite as far as like Asia
yes.
goes. Yeah. So I'm curious to play as them as well whenever we get over there, and Nigeria too, which sounds really cool to see like an African empire, which is not something that we see in a lot of settings or in a lot of mods. But thank you, Murloc. I appreciate your time. I hope people are looking forward to the mod. I know I am, and we'll see you soon. What's up, everybody? It's Soul, and today I'm here with Stocky Kruger, team lead and script lead, Freystein, artist lead, and Kaiser Harm, the writer lead for the Four Nations or the Avatar mod for CK3, the upcoming Avatar mod for CK3. How are you guys today?
Doing great.
Hello.
Amazing.
So, do you guys like to start with everybody that I've been interviewing? I've been kind of asking them, what is this mod? And I know that the Avatar mod in particular, which I got to give you guys props, during ModCon had probably my favorite trailer. It was really impressive. I have no idea how you guys like did all of that or made it work. But what, just in case people haven't seen the ModCon trailer or have paid no attention to it, because some people don't, what is this mod? What is the goal of this mod? Just give us a big overview of the mod itself.
Well, okay, I can give an overview. We have very big ambitions, as I think every new total conversion has. They want to bring something new to the table. And we have the advantage that we are taking, Nickelodeon's sorry, I cannot even pronounce the name of the source material.
Right.
The Legend of Aang animated series that we are adapting into the CK3 mod. And for that, we are starting with actually a small part of the world map, specifically one nation of the Four Nations. And what distinguishes this is that everybody, well, about 1/3 of the population has a special kind of magic that is part martial arts and part actual magic telekinesis and such, and that actually affects you as you go through your life. You are expected to learn about it, to train in it, and in turn it will of course give you prestige, give you honors. And when we are adapting a very soft source material, which the Last Airbender actually is, it is not like a Tolkien-esque explanation of everything that is to do. You can really think about the repercussions that like a Nickelodeon series would not fully explore. So we can really start thinking of, okay, how would the government system work? How would a culture adapt when people can just create fire from their hands?
Mm-hmm.
And so that basically brings us to our other ambitious features, some of which we are trying to cut back so that we don't keep out in the scope, so that we don't get to release.
So with this mod, what is the time period that it takes place in? For if people are familiar with Avatar, you know, like the Tale of Aang, because it takes place during, I think it's like Kobayashi, right? Is her name? It's like her time as the Avatar.
Kyoshi.
Kyoshi, that's her name. Yeah, I can never remember anybody's name. So it's during her era. And what are like major events that happen during that period?
So this is 1 year after the death of Jin the Conqueror.
Oh, okay.
Jin the Conqueror is like somebody who showed up in a very old, in like one of the, it is being told in animated series as like a history tale. So that is our starting point for what we're adapting. It is about 200, 300 years before the Legend of Aang is set. So we are adapting that one scene for part of it, but we are also adapting some of the books that have been written in a couple decades before this time period, actually. So we are actually between different canon sources, between the books on the one side and the animated series on the other hand.
Okay. So how are you with the, I guess, like you said, you were going to like render it, I guess, like, you know, this thing. How are you going to do that? Maybe Freystein can answer this if you're like an artist lead, because I know you guys did that, again, the crazy trailer. I don't know if you were involved with that. Are you going to do like a cut scene like you did before? Because that could be interesting. No, I don't think a mod that I know of has done a cut scene or anything. I'm not saying that you're going to do that, but how are you going to showcase, I guess, this introduction?
Yeah, we have developed like a cool intro. If you start a new bookmark, a new career, there is a really cool interactive intro where I made some illustrations where it like explains to you, okay, this is the setting, this is the time period we are speaking of, and you are starting in the Fire Nation, and then the text changes. And it depends on what you are playing. Are you playing as the Fire Lord? Then it will explain to you, you are the Fire Lord. You have a struggle. You have like this aristocratic rebellion that is going on. And if you are playing as one of the opponents in this grand civil war, then you have like a different explanation. What is going on? What is your purpose? What is something that you maybe want to achieve? And it's really cool. I'm very proud of this system, and I think people will be. I hope so. Will be blown away when they see it.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what can you describe how you plan to adapt like the bending system, because obviously that's like a huge part of this world and I'm sure probably the most anticipated feature, I would assume. So what does that look like? Is it sort of like a pseudo magic system?
It is a magic system. It's not very pseudo.
Okay.
It is like again, we have high ambitions, but the thing is
Yeah.
that for other tools conversions, magic is something that you want to add to your play style, like somebody who is being a king, and then also, oh yeah, by the way, they're also like a magician or whatever, or they hire a magician. It is less important here because the show, like the most visually intriguing part of the animated series, is of course the fire, the water, all the flashy effects. So we decided you don't want to overload the player with information. You have only a certain budget of complexity of how many buttons you're giving them. And so we thought, okay, yeah, we'll just give the bending system all the buttons. We are going to go all in on complexity and like maybe make other parts of the mod not take as much of development time compared to specifically the bending system.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
But of course, we don't want to use the complexity just for the sake of complexity. We
Right.
want to aim for like there's a couple aims. One is that we want to make it feel useful. We want to make it feel useful even if you're not a legend yourself, because legends are rare. Legends should feel special. We also want this to be replayable, so that it's not just clicking. I want to click this button to grind for 3 XP points and gain 20 stress. Click 200 times and you're a legend. Of
Right.
course, we also want to avoid that. So that's what the complexity is for, because we want there to be a lot of different bending abilities, and each ability is like a technique. So you're like, okay, you can create flames. What do you do with flames? Do you just whoosh, make a fireball and throw it at someone? Do you make more like a flamethrower, or do you actually like focus the flame into something that's very hot that you can wield like a dagger and cut through solid metal with? So there's a couple different techniques. And one thing is that depending on your personality, different techniques will come more naturally to you. So as you play as different characters, you will not only be experiencing different levels of skill, but also different features you unlock because they come more naturally to you.
Okay. Well, I mean, that sounds really interesting. I'm curious to see that. I did have a question because it sounds like there's a lot. It's kind of like system heavy, at least as far as this goes. And maybe Stocky, you can answer this. How many people are on the team, and how long has the team been around? How long has the mod been in production?
We've been in production for about a year and a half. We sort of like restarted everything from the scratch. I know a lot of people are probably wondering, like, wasn't this in development for 4 years? And I mean, technically, but we started from scratch. There's a new wave of people, and I sort of took leadership, and after some changes, got some things rolling, and yeah, it's back up. So a year and a half, we have about 20 to 30 developers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you guys had any challenges since you've been trying to like obviously get it back up with, I guess, the new team, or with just, is there like a difference in the style of, I don't know, development from the previous iteration, I guess?
Yeah, we are a lot more focused, a lot more organized. I remember the old system. It was like everyone a little bit for themselves. There was a little bit a lack of like a clear vision, and with like the restart, Stocky was like able to say, okay, you're doing this, you're doing that. What is our vision? Where do we want to head with our story? With the whole idea of what we want to achieve, and that was really refreshing, and this gives everyone a boost in morale, and we have now like a measure of success. It's not like everyone is a little bit tweaking here and tweaking there. We have now clear goals. We have stretch goals, and our departments can say, okay, we are clearly going forward
Mhm.
instead of always tracking sideways, and that is really, really good to see.
Okay, so
I
since
think
you,
that there,
oh no, go on.
yeah, but I think that there's always like a distinction between the most productive team members and the least productive team members, and so like to
Yeah.
some extent, we will have. I want to say this because there will be like the most impressive artisans among our team, and they will kind of help to create the most interesting parts to draw other people in. Like I myself, I joined because oh wait, they have a 3D throne room now, and well, that was freestyle.
Yeah, a lot of people joined because of that. It was really successful.
Yeah.
The 3D throne room?
Yes. Yeah, and they were the
Yeah.
second wave after the trailer.
Yes, I think I recall that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did look really nice. I mean, the whole trailer was really impressive. So what is the scope? I guess the scope is that it's going to be mostly the Fire Nation. What is the timeline right now on getting at least like a beta or like first release? Like when do you suspect that would be?
And it's ready.
Oh, it's already ready.
Yeah.
The mod will
No,
release when it's ready.
no.
We are not
It's-
setting deadlines.
It's a really, yeah, I mean, it's just an answer we have to give because, I mean, I've worked in a lot of other mod teams, and especially over at ACOT, with the dragons come in,
Oh yeah.
it's it's setting specific deadlines is very difficult because I mean we're all into your team. Someone's schedule might have more. They might not be able to finish up a certain piece that they were working on in time.
Mhm.
Family stuff, life. So it's just really unpredictable, and so the only thing we can really say is when it's ready. But we
Yeah,
are working hard every day, and yeah, progress is being made.
Right.
I think something is not.
It's like
Sorry, you go as Freestyle.
it's like with the All Under Heaven expansion. I really thought that it would like speed up everything, but it was in some ways a setback because we had to rework a lot of things, especially with the map. I basically have to do everything all over again, so that was like a setback. So
Oh.
and with the current system, I'm not like really sad about it. I cannot say, oh, now we will miss our deadline or something. It's like, okay, it didn't go as planned. We will see how long it takes, and yeah. But I think the next big thing will be like the launch of at least the Fire Nation. That is the next thing that we are currently working towards.
Mhm.
It will not have all 4 nations in the whole world. I know everybody wants to be like, oh, I want to conquer Ba Sing Se, the unconquerable city, or become a waterbender. We know. But the first thing is only the Fire Nation, and that is the goal we are working towards.
Interesting.
Yeah. All Heaven was a very mixed blessing because on the one hand, it is suddenly giving us Asian art, Asian reference, Asian music.
Yeah.
It is suddenly making the world slightly less Eurocentric. It's still pretty Eurocentric, but it is giving us a lot of other tools. But on the other hand, like one specific story, we had clothing sets for the Fire Nation, actually a couple, and they were made.
Oh yeah.
They were made by recoloring the clothing from vanilla because like making new clothing is very complicated. There's few people who can do it, so we had to recolor vanilla meshes for the most part.
Uh-huh.
And so okay, what's the best we can do from mesh we have? And so you get to Arab clothing and Mongolian clothing and like okay, paint them red, close your eyes, pretend it's Fire Nation, and it will kind of work. But if you look very closely, you will see that there's like on one of the recolored Arabic outfits, there's still like the Shahada inscribed in the color. So there's not, you will see those mistakes if you look close enough. But so now all the ever comes and okay, wait, great, we have Asian clothing. Let's copy paste Japanese. No, not Japanese because we have, those are long Heian period robes. Those are not like the Fire Nation. The Fire Nation is really like a fantasy country. So we have to redo them, and the new ones they're better. But yeah, it was basically all my my entire winter vacation just taking meshes, editing them, painting them red.
So, well, I am kind of curious. So, why the decision for the Fire Nation specifically? Also, where are you getting this information? Like, or is this all like specifically just like coming from the team, like the lore? I guess is what I mean. or is this like pre-established lore and you were just the most interested in the Fire Nation? I was curious as to why you picked that one. If the avatar is from the Earth Nation, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I mean, the Earth Kingdom has the thing that is really large, this entire continent. It has very diverse cultures with the big city, the capital, Ba Sing Se. And when we started, there weren't really like systems for like now with China and the meritocratic system. There are these sandbenders in the desert. It's like really, it's a huge world of its own. And so we thought it's for the first bite, it's really large. The airbenders, on the other hand, they have like really specific systems and problems that we are still talking about every meeting, how to tackle their culture specific things, their airways. And with the water, there are like two tribes, the North Pole and the South Pole. So how do you start your map and your world? Do you only do the northern tribe? But then you have a really small map. There are not that many waterbenders at the North Pole. So that was the exact opposite problem from the Earth Kingdom. It's too small. And the Fire Nation was like this perfect size. It's large enough that you can play test it. You have enough characters, enough provinces to like test out your systems, but it's not too big that you cannot tackle it with a really small team, because every total conversion mod starts with a relatively small team before you can like get more people on board. So you need like a proof of concept, and for that proof of concept, the Fire Nation had the perfect start. I myself, I'm more of an Earthbender, but okay, let's do the Firebenders and the Fire Nation first. I'm okay with that.
Well, speaking of that, what does everybody else prefer? I'm curious now.
I'm a Dutchman,
Sure, for
water
sure.
type all the way.
Okay. And then what did you say, Stocky?
I'm like Earth, but I very much like UDAO specifically, and a bit more of the desert. So specific parts, although all of the Earth Kingdom is really cool.
Yeah, the Earth
So
Kingdom is
yeah,
really
I kind
sick.
of like
Yeah.
the niches. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, which is why I was curious, because I was like, it's really diverse. I mean, I personally prefer the Fire Nation, but I'm probably in a minority. I think they're really cool. And plus, with the unique ability of
No,
some of
they
them.
are cool. They have
Yeah.
their own
Yeah.
thing going on, and I mean, over time, working on all of this and filling this land mass with like stories, with characters. I think the Fire Nation has grown on me.
Oh, good. I mean, yeah, it's hard to with the show because they're, almost explicitly evil most of the time. So you're like, well, I don't, you know, how
we
would
made
I
a
like them?
great deal. We made a great deal out of it to not make them the evil guys. There are a lot of different persons and personalities in the Fire Nation. They are not all evil overlords that want to take over the world. We know that the player wants to do that, but not not all characters in the Fire Nation
Yeah,
share this ambition of the
yes,
player.
we do not condone such ambitions. This is we are a volunteer team.
That is true. So, like, on the one
Uh,
hand, we are making the Fire Nation very diverse, but we are going to have to. That is one thing on the horizon. It is one of the things where, for a Nickelodeon show, Avatar is unexpectedly serious in that the main character is a genocide survivor. So we are going to have to deal with that in at some point. And when we are, because it is going to be 200 years from our start date, so it's not like right around the corner. But when we are going to make sure that we do it in a weighty manner. We are not going to make a button kill all air nomads.
Right.
We are going to try to
Yeah.
simulate the circumstances that lead to basically what you might call a collapse into a militaristic fascist state. It is not going to be a triumph of Fire Nation authority. It is going to be, I mean, depending on your feelings, of course, but I personally want it to feel like a tragedy, even for the player who is
Yeah.
executing it.
Yeah, it is definitely not going to be like a button and boom, your your soul's an imperialistic state now, boom, everyone's just magically converts or whatever. Yeah, it's not going to be that at all. It's going to be a lot more impactful.
I mean,
This
that
guy's just that tragic.
yeah, that sounds really promising. I mean, not promising in terms of what's happening, but in promising in terms of, I guess, like a more dynamic story. And I guess speaking of, are there any stories that, I mean, you're Kaiser, you're the writer lead, so maybe you can answer this. Are there any like stories that you've already written that you're excited for that you can maybe tease out? If not, it's totally okay. But is there like a wide array? It sounds like there's a wide array of characters. So are there any that like stand out to you just offhand?
Yeah, definitely. Like there is, like we're going to be starting with 5 focal bookmark characters. So like one of them is the Fire Lord, of course, who has a mission to keep the nation together. And you saw 2 others in the trailer. So there's Jito, who is basically the puppet claimant of the faction that is trying to unseat Soryu and install like a more, a puppet ruler who's going to let the periphery be more independent. And there's Gang, who is a tribal leader who wants to destroy the Fire Nation because he believes that it will inevitably become a very bad, a very troublesome state. So like all of those and 2 more that you haven't seen yet, let's keep them under wraps,
Mm-hmm.
are going to be the focal characters who have the most lore around them and they have the most decisions that they can make. And essentially, we, we are. It is going to be a simulation game, of course, and so we cannot just railroad everything from Zorya to Sozin. But for the first 10 years, roughly, of gameplay, this collective story of these 5 people will play out and will determine what shape the Fire Nation will take. And so I am excited for the interplay between these characters. So Gang is, of course, going to try to destroy the Fire Nation. And if he just succeeds, then bam, that's it. No Fire Nation gone. But what if he doesn't succeed, but he also doesn't fail? What if he meets his goal halfway? What would that look like? What if he allies with the faction that wants to put Jito on the throne? What if you have a Fire Nation that's cloven in half? What if he replaces Jito with his own daughter who is the same age and tries to get his own heir on the throne? That is something
Yeah,
that
and
we
then
can explore.
and then it's also to consider like what the other 4 people would react to that and what they can do, and it's everything is just gonna just be like a web of such like stories, and like it's gonna be so dynamic and so awesome, and yeah.
Where does the avatar come into all of this story? So, because I am curious, does she just like show up periodically? Like, what is going to be her role within the mod?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's the other most influential part of our mod, besides the vending system, of course. The avatar is basically like the medieval pope if he had weapons of mass destruction that could threaten anyone with a nuke. So specifically how we are going to be handling this is that Kyoshi has a mission to try to solve injustice, to try to prevent the worst excesses of the civil war that's ongoing. But at the same time, she is not taking an explicit side in the war because like whoever she sides with is going to win. So that is what we made a point of showing in her trailer. She is actually neutral. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is really unequivocally the best future for the Fire Nation. So the Kyoshi is going to be somebody that you have to take into account if you are expecting to do something that you might find unjust. And she is near, she's in the vicinity, because she also cannot just rule the world entirely. She is traveling, and you might need to rethink your plans if you know that the avatar is in the area.
Interesting. Will there be like a
Yeah.
Would there be like a pop up or something like, oh, the avatar is nearby or something? I would assume.
If she visits, then yeah, but otherwise, like she might just be in a neighboring province, and you can see her map pin walk over the map.
Oh, she's
Cannot
gonna
sleep now. There
Yeah.
are avatars nearby.
That's what I was. So
A
she's
wild avatar.
yeah, she's gonna be like physically on the map, like just wandering around. You'll see her.
Yeah.
Well, not like her walking 3D model. That's a bit more complicated, but you will like she will have an icon.
Right. Okay.
You'll be able to see like the icon.
That's cool. I mean, that's a smart idea, especially because then you don't have to do like a whole person, I guess. Which how does that work? Like, is there anybody on the team that does like 3D modeling? I mean, as the art lead, maybe Freystone, you can answer this, or do you mostly just do like digital art for this?
My main thing is the 3D models for buildings. I have developed like our own little sprawl system for cities, so that they're a little bit, so that you can see the growing economy of your empire. Also, like the harbors and special buildings. That is my main thing. Kaiser did the clothing, but the thing is with, and I think most other developers will agree, creating 3D models from scratch, especially clothing with all the blend shapes, is really difficult and a long procedure. So we are using that sparingly, and that is awesome because we got a lot of clothing in the All Under Heaven expansion. So recoloring is fairly easy. So you will see a lot of buildings from me. Expect a lot of awesome stuff there. And yeah, if, I mean, you are listening and you want to make 2D illustrations, you can join. We are looking for that.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you had a call for like developers specifically.
Yeah, 2D
Yes.
illustrations, that would be awesome. I can do that, but I'm really slow at it, and I would really love to have a person that can like make cool little drawings, illustrations for like the spirits and all this cool avatar stuff that we can have in the game. That would be really awesome.
Okay, well that's good. And I'm assuming they could just do that through like the Discord or whatever.
Exactly. Yes, we have a
Yeah.
Discord
Yep.
channel. Discord, you can apply there. Yeah.
So I did have a question. So Stocky, you're also the scripting lead. What does that entail exactly? I'm just curious because I mean I feel like writer and art are more specific, or like at least more understandable maybe to me. So what would the scripting lead do? What are you guys up to over there?
So for the scripting lead, we usually just handle most of the back side of things. So, and we usually implement what the writers or artists usually need to work on. When it comes to like events, that's like the most obvious. Scripters are responsible for writing event chains. Sorry, not writing event chains, implementing event chains, mechanics, decisions, that sort of thing.
Interesting. So I just had a thought now, and this maybe you guys don't have the answer to this, but you said All Under Heaven. You've said it a couple times, and it made me think. So there's natural disasters added to All Under Heaven, but some people have the capability, essentially, if they're powerful enough, or even the avatar themselves, to almost prevent those or cause them. Is that going to be something that would be in the mod?
There are some interactions that we are working on, but I don't think that we want to promise more at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
I can promise something. Like it would not be very complicated to do like a middle, like another response event to help the disaster as part of a relief project. We can do stuff.
Yeah.
Like the very dramatic stuff, literally stopping a volcano as it is exploding.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That will be a stretch goal.
Right.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. So wait, this another question, I guess, related to the mod. So it's starting in the Fire Nation. Are there only going to be like firebenders then at the start, like with the initial release?
Well, no.
There are characters that are not firebenders and very interesting characters from outside the Fire Nation, but there are not at the start of the mod persons like that can bend other elements. At least not at this point in development.
Well,
Yeah,
they can bend it, but they don't have the same fully fledged bending system.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, we aim for high complexity, and so that will require us to define like 50 different bending abilities just for fire bending. It also makes sense in two-person combat that have economically balanced bending scrolls that are generated at the right time, that can be influenced by other styles. It is going to be a lot of work to just do one element. So the others, they will have like the grindy bending that I just spoke disparagingly about. They will get like some modifiers, like they will say, "Oh yeah, I am a waterbender," but we will flesh their systems out when we add their respective lands.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, yeah, that makes sense to me. Let's see. Do I have anything else? Is there anything else that you'd want to share about the mod? You guys have been very forthcoming and talking about all sorts of things. Is there anything that you're excited about that you've been working on, or just that you wanted to let people know?
Well, okay. I will think of. We have just been talking about the government system for the Fire Nation, and that is one where All in Heaven has actually like expanded our capabilities a lot. One of the things that has been made possible now is
If you say it out loud, you have to do it. You know that, right?
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay,
It's
okay,
now a
Yeah.
promise.
okay. Okay, I will try to keep it slightly under wraps. Well, okay, there are more different possibilities, and so we can make certain factions playable. We might be able to make certain things playable that are not playable in vanilla. Or in like people are always talking about let's do playable merchants or playable theocracies. I think that there's one playable faction that people have not been requesting, and that is exactly one that we might be able to do a lot of interesting stuff with for the Fire Nation. So we are going to be exploring a very different gameplay style, but yeah, it is one of our biggest desires, but we cannot promise it right away.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I want to expand on the natural disasters. I mean,
Mhm.
there are droughts, there are floods, there are earthquakes, and I'm really excited to implement volcanoes because the Fire Nation had a lot of those, and some interactions between like the persons and the events that are a little bit more fleshed out than in the base game, especially preventing floods, for example. That is something I'm really excited to work on in the future.
Hmm. Do you got anything, Stocky?
Not in particular, no.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you guys for your time. I'm very much looking forward to this mod. And obviously, I do want to point out when I asked for the timeline, I thought all three of you said that it's ready, not when it's ready. And I was like, oh, it's
No.
ready right now. That's crazy.
No.
You're like, it's dropping right now. I was like, oh my God, Todd Howard's in the room with us right now. It's the Oblivion remaster all over again. It's crazy.
Oh, no, not yet.
But okay, that does make way more sense. Don't let anybody in these comments when you inevitably come and read this pressure you into doing this any faster. I think that it's interesting as CK3 enters its I guess middle to late age. I guess depending on how long the life cycle is going to be for it. I would assume like 8 to 10 years, right? That's like usually the trajectory. How many new total conversion mods are kind of coming on the scene, and I think that that'll be a trend that continues. So if anything, you're just keeping the game alive by not pushing it, but like taking your time and making something that's good, that's worth coming back to, which I think is noble. But I want to thank you guys for your time, Stocky, Kruger, Freystein, and Kaiserharm, and I will happily talk to you guys again soon. Hopefully, when you get a little bit closer, maybe we can show off more of the mod here on the channel.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for this interview.
What's up, everybody? It's Soul. Today I am here with Sheriff. Are you the lead of Radiation Kings?
I am one of two overseers. I'm
Okay.
the developing manager. The other one is the just community manager. Sharing responsibility from the person that's who stepped away from the project but is still helping out here and there. The founder, I would say.
Gotcha. So when did the project begin specifically?
So I joined the project in April of 2024. I had posted on the CK3 subreddit, or maybe it was a modding one, some GIS map data that I'd used to make a New Vegas map. For those unaware, CK3 maps are based off grayscale. They're in a gradient of black and white, and learned that I had found GIS topographic maps that were in grayscale. I took a New Vegas grayscale map that they used for the Pip-Boy, and I put it in the game of CK3, and it worked to shockingly great accuracy. Obviously, there were some major drop-offs in the Colorado River, but other than that, the slopes, the mountains, they look great. My plan back then was to make the most microcosmic CK3 overhaul that I think exists. Just New Vegas, and then maybe a horn of land to the west and east, heading into Shady Sands and Tucson, Arizona. I posted that on Reddit as kind of a shout out to anyone interested, and what I got back was someone saying, stop what you're doing, you're going to want to see this. And it was a Discord of people who had already been working on all of North America for at least a year prior.
Mm-hmm.
So the project stretches back to at least 2023. I think it was 2 to 3 guys that were just posting stuff and trying to get it to work. And when I got brought on, then a dozen others were brought on too. Most of those are gone now. It's just a thing where like you bring on new people, and most of them, we kind of don't know what we're doing, or worse, they don't want or they don't have the time to learn what to do, and so you just get these like spaces in development where you just try to find people that are uh, just willing to put in the effort and figure out how to get this thing off the ground.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what is, before we get any further, for those of us who don't know, because maybe not everybody knew, but Radiation Kings was a mod that was shown at ModCon. There was a trailer. I'm pretty sure I helped work on that. I actually can't remember.
You had some voiceover?
Yes,
pretty good.
I did some voiceover. Okay, see, I don't remember, but I like vaguely remembered it. But what is Radiation Kings for those of us who don't know, or for those of like who's listening who don't know, maybe?
It is the world of Fallout, and that is to say, the world of Black Isle and Bethesda Fallout put in the CK3 universe in the year 2248.
Okay, and why did you choose that date specifically?
So we went back and forth with the date. That was one of the most contentious things in the discussions when we were all brought on. Is like, when do we want to kick these things off? And some of the more experienced developers were like, let's focus on other things and we'll get back to that. And we eventually got back to the date, and it was a matter of CK3 is obviously built on like large spans of time as you're progressing through eras, and we wanted to feel that, but we didn't exactly want to go back to the year of the like 76, like early Reclamation Day. So we chose something in between Fallout 2 and 3 as a way to like bridging the two studios. Just aesthetics, they look very different. Storytelling, one's more zany, one's more grounded in this gritty architecture. So we chose something in between to kind of pick and choose and try to mend these two worlds together, because that's always brought topic of discussion in the Fallout games of Bethesda or Black Isle, between the what works and what's more out there.
Right. No, that makes sense. So I guess a question that I have immediately that I'm thinking of. So a lot of Fallout, as far as people know, because there's only been a few games, just like 4 canon ones, I guess, or whatever, 5, whatever. A lot of the map is relatively unexplored. Like there is a Fallout in the Midwest. Tactics, I'm pretty sure, is like near Chicago. But how has been filling in those gaps since you're doing most of North America instead of just one specific region?
So I think there was a little bit of I mean, I think a lot of people are excited when we released ModCon. It was very exciting to get Fallout because it's something that's been requested for a long time, but also a little bit of confusion. It was like, does this really work for CK3? And I think if you look back in the lore, it's a lot more feudal than people realize of the post-apocalyptic world. Just when you have like Brother of Steel is a major faction, and they're based on this like order of knights, top to bottom, of leadership and the chains that bind, and how the hierarchy works. That already is like a very feudal system. You have all these like wasteland raiders and leaders, and it's pretty easy to guess how they would be set up.
Right, like tribally.
Yeah. So the way we're looking about it is, and we're using like as much lore as we possibly can from just all the games, just because we want to create our own stuff as like an order of last resort of places that have not been mentioned on the map at all. What is mentioned is going to be tailored to the map as best it can.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, and I also agree, because even in, if anybody's watched the new Fallout season, they kind of present the Brotherhood of Steel as sort of this different order that is like one body, but everybody sort of rules their individual chapters. So it's sort of like, like their own knightly orders. And then even then there's like, the Commonwealth or what have you, like whoever's in charge of that would be like its own feudal state. And then the NCR is kind of like more of a modern state, like maybe administrative, but still, like I could see it within the confines of CK3.
The NCR is our biggest challenge, and it is one that we're starting with, focusing our development West Coast to East Coast. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But yeah. And hopefully, like, we're starting late, like 5 years in CK3's development. Hopefully there's another 5 years, I imagine. But one of the props of starting this late was that they've added all these updates, just government types. And so it makes our job a little bit easier to try to figure out some sort of system for the NCR that's different and more accurate to its setting.
Yeah, because you can also do, even something with like nomads, where you could have some of the raiding people or whatever, maybe even like a ghoul faction. I don't know, and they're nomadic and they like wander
Mhm.
around. Because it could be stuff like that. Like it's. I think you definitely have a lot more options now than you would have like 3 years ago when it was tribal, maybe clan and
Yeah.
feudal.
When you
or-
didn't have the wandering system.
yeah, when you
Yeah,
didn't.
I mean that's another huge component. Is just being able to like pick up and go wherever you want as a true wanderer.
Yeah, and do you have plans to do like events or anything? Because some mods they really lean for like more of a sandbox, and some are more story focused. So, which direction do you think that y'all are trying to go for?
Definitely more story. I want a greater focus on the writing. I think we're gonna be like ripping out most of the CK3 events, which I love CK3. Played it plenty, but some of them are just
They're not good.
they're not good.
They're
They're not good. They're
good.
just and I have to think from a developer point of view. Maybe Paradox is just like, okay, here's a little short event. If you read it, that's fine. Here's your outcome.
Mhm.
Here's what you get. And I gotta think there's a better way to do it. And so we're just gonna try to focus on getting some interesting stories, getting some actual like outcomes that maybe lead to different events. Could be cool.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
No, definitely.
Um,
And you see mods
Yeah.
like Elder Kings do that too, where they've started writing like a ton of their own events that you can sort of find
Yeah,
while you're
yeah.
wandering around, which is cool because then the game actually feels different. Which of course, it's a mod, so it's going to feel different anyway. But I think Princes of Darkness has kind of started to do
Add
the
some
same thing.
impact.
Yeah. So like add some things that are uniquely your mod, which I definitely recommend. It sounds like you already want to do anyway, which is good. I was going to ask if you had any challenges, but I'm sure the biggest challenge right now is just trying to like fit everything together. How far along would you say on the project you are? Are you still like in the map phase, or are you just trying to get to like the minutia now?
I definitely say we're still in the map phase, just trying to. I mean, we want to get just a launch title set up.
Mhm.
The West Coast, Commonwealths. We're kind of dividing up the development into Commonwealths of the old map.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Are you looking for any like developers? Do you guys have like an open call for that? Or are you a bit more selective?
Yeah, I mean we're open to writers, scripters, coders, you name it.
Okay. And then since you are so early, do you have like any sort of timeline? Because from what it sounds like you might be like maybe like a year or two away from actually getting a beta or anything
Definitely
out.
that point. We do have something releasing this upcoming ModCon that's going to be pretty special.
Oh, very
I should say.
nice. Very nice.
Excited about that, and that's going to serve as a bit of a beta to this mod.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Well, that's exciting.
we will have some got some stuff planned for this year, but yeah, we are a bit of a ways away.
That's good. Okay, so and now a question I have, because this is more Fallout focused, I guess we can just jump to those. So Fallout isn't just people. Obviously, you have different things like ghouls, super mutants, night, or like a bunch of stuff, death claws,
Yeah,
that like wander
different
around
species.
this world. Do you plan on making some of those playable? Like a super mutant, maybe not, but like a ghoul certainly could in some way be playable. Do you plan on like adding different races, or do you just not have or do you have the capability to like make new models for that, or do you plan on maybe trying to go to different
I'd say
teams?
I'd say it's a high priority to get the different races in. Definitely super mutants and ghouls. And we've been getting a lot of support from the Elder Kings community as well. The developers there have been helping us with a few things, and they have their own system for undead that's very cool in the way that they they decompose and age. And we're
Oh,
hoping
yes.
to get our own system set up. Shows that degradation.
Yeah, like for
He's
yeah,
like-
absolutely.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
exactly what you're talking about because the liches, their skin will like gradually fall off,
Hmm.
and it's really cool.
One of the things I really want to add, not everyone on the development's like excited about, is the first Fallout game had these cut mutated raccoons. You can still find a file that talks about them, like they escaped from a lab and went off into the wasteland. They're mutated with FEV, and they were called the Slanner. They're these like just talking raccoons.
Mhm.
And I understand why they were cut from the first game. They were a bit too zany for the first Fallout. Nowadays, I think Bethesda would add them in without a doubt,
Oh yeah,
just because they fit better into the world on the East Coast.
Mhm.
But that is something I hope to get the raccoons in one of these days.
Oh, awesome. So, I mean, you're working on a Fallout related mod. What is your relationship to Fallout? Where did you start with that?
Started at Peak, started at New Vegas. Yeah, I started in Vegas, then 3, and then 4, and then having joined this group, I had to go back and play the first 2 games
Yeah,
and see what they were like.
naturally.
I
So-
was impressed.
Have you ever modded any of the Fallouts at all, or did you do any modding before you decided to start doing this modding project?
No, I'm completely fresh on starting this. I was really really unprepared to go it alone on that first mod project I was trying to get off the ground.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was so happy when someone like messaged me back and said, "Hey, we got something. Come help us out if you can."
Yeah. And did you just
That's how I
feel
joined.
like, did you just like Fallout so much that you just felt compelled to try to bring it into CK3, which you obviously also like enough to try to do
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's wonderful. So where did you get start? So when you got started with this, how did you did you go to the co-op to get like into modding? Like, did you have somebody show you, or did you just sort of like fuddle around until you kind of figured it out?
Pretty much all of the above. Co-op has a ton of resources. They're very helpful in answering questions, and there's just videos out there and guides, and you just have to take the time to take all that information in, and hopefully it sticks.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say you specialize in as far as like on the mod team? Because everybody has like their thing that they usually do.
So I'm focusing on getting the stats associated with the special system in Fallout.
Oh, very nice.
Getting all the 7 attributes to line up, and that's my priority right now. But officially, I'm the developing manager, the overseer for the project, and that means just try to handle recruitment, and if anyone has any questions, try to help them out as much as they can.
Okay. Are you going to try to also add like perks, I would assume, because they're such a big part of Fallout, into the game too?
Yeah. We got perks. Perks also would be more as in, CK3 perks.
Yeah.
How they are in the trees.
That's kind of what I figured. It would make the most sense. And then probably like random dynamic ones that sort of just happen as you play, because there's a ton of those too.
Yeah.
Presumably. Yeah. No, there's a lot of room to do all sorts of things. I think definitely playing a Wanderer sounds appealing. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what you guys have come up with for ModCon. I'm assuming it's just going to be more of like a vertical slice. You don't have to spoil too much of this. That could be like a yes or no
Okay.
answer.
Break it down vertical slice. What do you mean?
So just basically, like what I mean by a vertical slice is like you have this mod. It's supposed to be all of North America. As a vertical slice, it would be like this is just Arizona, or this is just like one territory, one spot, and this is like an example of what the entire mod would be like. Is that what it's going to be, or is it going to? I mean, you don't have to expand on that. But if you say no, like that's totally fine too. Like I don't know if that makes sense.
In the way that we showed off? Probably just, area by area. I think so.
Okay. And then so do you just plan on, because maybe it would be easier for you too, like if you just do like one area, or do you just plan on expanding it bit by bit, or try to get as much of it done in one go as possible?
I would say region by region more than bit by bit. I
Mhm.
think that's a more accurate
Okay.
description.
Very nice. Well, Did you have anything else you wanted to share about the project? Any requests? Any sort of things that you've been wanting to tell people that you've been really excited about? Because otherwise, I don't have like a ton of other questions. You've been very succinct and very good.
1 second. What's your favorite fall game?
My favorite fall game. Oh God, it's tough because I do love New Vegas. I think it's a fantastic game. It's one of those games when you replay it, it always feels new. For some reason, there's something about it that feels fresh every time. Probably because there's so many routes you can take. My first Fallout game was Fallout 3, which came out when I was like in 8th grade or something. So I was playing that. And then I immediately played Fallout 1 and 2. Fallout 1 is really good. I would have to say it depends on the day. It's either Fallout 1 or Fallout New Vegas. I think the tone of Fallout 1 hasn't been matched. Like the Wasteland feels a lot less silly, a lot less safe. It does feel like a dire post-apocalyptic world, and like there's some stakes, Like so I like that about it, but I do like the more, I don't know, I like what Obsidian did with New Vegas too. It sort of like was a mix of the two things and felt modern enough. If that
I get
makes sense.
that.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
It is very interesting. Because you have those games in the middle between them, the Tactics, Brother of Steel, and they're not quite considered like canon in the lore. They're kind of like semi-canon.
In my opinion,
but it's interesting.
Tactics has the best power armor though. The Midwest power armor is sick looking.
Oh yeah. It is definitely the best.
It looks so cool.
But we're following the show not because it's relevant to our timeline. It's a bit ahead, but just because the future can impact the past, and some stuff that they're bringing to the table is stuff like from Tactics, like the Plague. I don't want to spoil too much, but like the Plague and just these different chapters, Brother of Steel in the Midwest. That's stuff that was only talked about in some of these games that weren't quite as prevalent in the series. So it's interesting how they're handling some of that stuff, and it's exciting.
No, I agree. I honestly
filling the gaps that weren't covered.
Yeah, this is not me trying to like shill the show or anything, because it's not like they're paying me to say this. But in all honesty, for anybody who is listening who wants to know, I genuinely think that the Fallout show is probably one of the best pieces of like popular culture, like video game media that I have ever seen. It's really good. If you've not watched it, if you've been on the fence, it is surprising how much like attention to detail has gone into each like episode so far. Season 1 was great. I've liked all the episodes so far this season, and it's been really solid. If anybody cared, it's not like it's a major thing. We're talking about CK3 mods here. So with
let's get back to that.
Let's get back to the CK3. So with this coming year, obviously there's going to be a new chapter too. Like chapter 5 is coming out, but that might be to your benefit because it sounds like it's going to be more not systems focused, more like expanding pre-existing mechanics. So it might be actually to your benefit because you'll just get like more depth with certain systems. I would imagine feudalism is going to get an update. It's kind of been a big complaint, or like maybe some of the Christianity. How do you plan on implementing religions? Because it's not like religion is talked about a ton. Maybe like the Church of Adam or like the Brotherhood of Steel might be considered like a sort of theocratic, brotherhood. But like, do you have any ideas?
There are a handful of new and old world religions in the Fallout universe that's talked about. But it's another reason why we talked about religions, and we're kind of merging that with like ideologies. Just the way people just live in the wasteland, what their beliefs are, not just specifically spiritual. And also having that separate from culture. Just trying to create a larger span of what faith can be in the wasteland.
And so with this timeline, so it's between Fallout 2 and 3, so I would assume that you won't include things, which wouldn't make any sense, obviously, but you're not going to have things like the Legion because they don't exist yet. But are you going to create a possibility
Very early
for them?
stages.
Yeah, like for them to show up, I guess, potentially.
Trying to... We don't want to railroad much in the game, but that is going to be a set certain of events that lead to the Legion forming in Arizona and New Mexico. And it is like 2, maybe 3 years before Van Buren, which we want to incorporate a lot of things from Van Buren. It's just a matter of differentiating that, because Van Buren stuff was used for Fallout New Vegas, so we have to keep these things separate and try to create two narratives that work with each other.
Right, and to be clear, for those who don't know, Van Buren was the canceled Fallout 3 that never came out from Black Isle.
Right, it was based in Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah, so
it allows us to move some stuff a bit north of where a lot of conflict's going on.
Which is cool. And plus, I mean, Wasteland, I think specifically, takes place almost always in Colorado, because that's where like the Rangers come from for Fallout. Like I think the Rangers are in Wasteland. I've only played 2 and 3, and I've only played them both once, but I'm pretty sure I remember that. Also, I have a question. How many start dates do you plan on doing? Like, are you just going to do like one bookmark and then sort of like, well, not one bookmark, obviously there's a bunch of characters, but like one date and then just have it all branch from that? Or are you going to do like different periods within your setting?
I don't think we'd go any later than we are right now. If we made another bookmark, we'd go probably back to like Reclamation Day.
Yeah, which could be interesting. Obviously, it's a lot of work to make different bookmarks, which is why even Paradox with CK3 was like, we're not going to do that many because it's kind of a pain in the ass, which makes makes a lot of sense. Like CK2 had, I think, unlimited because you could just pick any year you wanted, more or less. So that's a lot more developer.
I imagine they might add bookmarks. It's just going to be really late in development, because why do it early?
Yeah,
you can just do it after you've done all the stuff that's moving around.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be another one
like,
for sure.
Yeah.
But with this, I was like, I guess it wouldn't really make sense with how you've been describing it, that you would do like too many. Like, of course, you'll have your initial one and you'll have like your key characters. Which, speaking of, have you written any characters out that you're excited for? I'm always a big fan of people who like create their own lore for these sort of things. So I'm assuming a lot of this has to be. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of lore characters, but have you written out anybody who has like a unique story that you're excited to share?
No.
Well, that's fine.
Not the moment.
That's all right. I mean, I know you guys are really early on, so I was like, this is probably a later time question. But I do appreciate you sitting down and talking with me, Sheriff, because this is one of the projects that I'm really curious about, because I love Fallout. It's one of my favorite franchises and like just pieces of media in general. So when I found out during ModCon last year that there was going to be a Fallout mod, and obviously helping you guys with the trailer, which I do now remember because you reminded me, I was very much curious about how this was going on. And so to hear that there's going to be something coming out this year, it's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to it for sure.